Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterland universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Praetoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on PeakD, YouTube, and Twitter.
Send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode. We are back after a brief hiatus. A couple of us went on vacation for a couple of weeks, and we're very proud to get things rolling again with a fantastic guest. But first, a word from our sponsors. Yep.
Yeah, I guess to talk to you guys more about Aqualis. Check out the Splinterlands market. I've been using it. It's been great. Really loving that DC getting back from that. So yeah, I'd say check it out, see what they've got going on. Lots of great things coming too. So stay tuned for that.
And that's splinterlands.aqualis.io, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And I think Crypto Eater is kind of constantly turning the wheels of change on contests to kind of encourage utilization of the marketplace. And he's doing some good things to support the community and support the overall ecosystem. So yeah, like Hep said, go check it out. All right. Well, without further ado, we are proud to welcome to the show a person that you have no doubt crossed paths with at some point in your Splinterlands career. He, I feel like anytime I hop on a live stream, I see this guy, kind of cruising around in the chat, dropping some good opinions, and it's grown into an opinion that I value and have a deep respect for. I think he got high praise from some of the big guys in the community that I have long looked up to. Aftersound, Darkest Nights are big fans of this guy. I know that they had a great time doing a little powwow at the old Splinterfest. I know he's been present at a couple of Aftersounds meetups throughout the last year, if I'm not mistaken. So without further ado, we proudly welcome to the show Viru5. What's up, man? Good to have you.
Hey, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. So
nice, man. Yeah, thanks for joining us. So yeah, like Jangle said, you're such a big member of the community. Very active Discord, and I just kind of want to know, like, what was your first kind of like aha moment where you knew that this is something that's really going to be for me? When did it, how did it kind of hit you that this is something that you kind of really liked and wanted to be a big part of the game and the community?
Well, I think like a lot of, there's a number of players that were Magic the Gathering players back in the day. And I used to love playing when I was a kid. And so I grew up kind of playing that. And I loved card games like Hearthstone and whatnot. And I had been into crypto a bit, kind of when it was first coming up. So I was, playing around on Mt. Gox and all that kind of stuff. And I had kind of given up on crypto and saw everything go up, and kind of didn't get to follow along with that. So when I found a game that combined, the card game aspect that I liked and, the crypto stuff that I was interested in, it's kind of the perfect match for me.
I don't know if you guys listened to it, but Splinterland 101, shout out to those guys, Matt Clark, Geo, and Boba Fett hosted Rogue, fellow YGG guy for you, Viru5, and obviously a great community member, runs his own Splinterland TV segment and that sort of stuff. And he really shared an insightful bit of his story and discovery of Splinterlands. Like I think it was Matt Clark that kind of put the words out there that he kind of willed Splinterlands into fruition via his keyword search terms on Google and found it that way as like NFT crypto trading card game. In hindsight, those are pretty general terms, but at the time, that's kind of a profound Google search term for landing on Splinterlands. Is that kind of how you came upon Splinterlands as well?
No, for me, I was actually playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which there's a few people in the community that were playing that before, and it was Bulldog. So Bulldog was one of the larger streamers for Star Wars, the Galaxy of Heroes game. And I've been playing that probably for a few years. A mobile game, you spend some money and you don't really have anything to show for it, but you just play the game for fun. And then Bulldog was doing the videos for Splinterlands at the same time, and I caught one of the videos. Unfortunately, it was after Untamed was sold out and Dice was sold out, so I came in as part of the Chaos Legion generation. But no, it never came across when I played as something that existed, and I wish I had seen it before.
Well, hopefully that's a sentiment that many folks express into the future as Splinterlands hopefully catches some steam and starts to grow its player base. I think both Hep and I have expressed that exact same sentiment as well. Like, oh man, like we came a little bit too late, but at this point, I think we're probably average OGs here. I don't know if maybe OG is a little bit of a stretch, but we've been around the block for a little while. We've seen, I would argue that we've seen most of the big changes that the game has experienced within the last 18 or so months. So Virus, I'm curious. The last couple of weeks have been interesting to say the least. I haven't. It was great to kind of unplug and. I was having a brief catch up with Hepdorn yesterday before we kind of got this episode teed up. And as an aside, a quick aside, man, the rust gathers so quickly on playing Splinterlands. I took a couple of weeks off. I played a little bit, dabbled a little bit, but I came back hard the last couple of days since I've come back home, and oh man, I've just been getting a proper hiding. Like it's like I forgot how to play. The rust is it cakes on real quick, and it takes a good couple of days to shake off. But generally speaking, it feels like there's been kind of a shift towards a much more negative headspace in terms of the community the last couple of weeks. Have you picked up on that, and what do you think has kind of been the catalyst for said sentiment?
Yeah, I've definitely noticed it. I think, for a good amount of time, we were used to something fresh or new or something exciting that was coming out every, month or month and a half, or maybe just sometimes every couple of weeks. We had earlier in the year, it seemed like every few weeks there was something that was coming out that was new, whether it was airdrop cards or something new that shook up the meta or, anything that was kind of exciting. And with Land, everything kind of went on pause to get it out. And I think while a lot of people say that there's not much appetite for, to buy something new or something that would come out, there is appetite of the players that they would like to see, something new come out and something shake things up. So without that, everyone's focused on what is the next new thing, and it's Land. And Land being delayed kind of, while it's, a lot of people will say they understand that Land was delayed, or tower defense even, tower defense being delayed. There's currently right now, the only thing that we're seeing is a delay, which, me being a software developer, I get why things are delayed. I understand it from a technical perspective, why that's happening. So for me, I'm enjoying myself playing the game. I mean, for me, the shakeup of no bots in Modern has me busy and has had me busy for the last few months here. So I'm pretty happy with that. But I think a lot of people in the community would probably just need something fresh to pull their attention for a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Having gotten in Chaos Legion, were you already playing mostly Modern, or were you playing Wild as well?
So for me, my plan from the beginning, which this was at the time supposed to be a 9-month plan with how things are supposed to go with pack sales, was that I was just going to buy Chaos Legion and do as well as I could until things in Modern were just Chaos Legion in the next set. And one of my goals is to try to be one of the better players that's in Modern. So for me, if I wasn't going to buy heavy into Untamed, but wait for whatever the next set is, I could just kind of play and do as well as I could until that came up. With Rebellion getting postponed for quite a long time, I've had to the FOMO's got a hold of me, and I bought some of the cards that I thought I needed that didn't maybe break the bank with Kitty or anything like that, but some of those key cards that really let me play at a higher level, but I still haven't been able to reach the highest level. And so it's still my plan. I've been kind of waiting. I think, how long has it been now? It's probably been like a year and something that Chaos Legion came out. So for me, once I'm excited for Rebellion coming out, if it, once it comes out, I'm ready to kind of buckle down and, pull a UA and study my cards and learn the meta and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think we're fast approaching 2 years since the Chaos Legion presale, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was, I want to say Christmas time of 2021, because it was, I came in just prior to the Carnage Titan airdrop, and I want to say that was right around Chinese New Year 2022. And I believe if memory serves me, Carnage Titan was airdrop number 3. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up Rebellion, man. Aggie had some comments that kind of made my head spin on the town hall. I don't know if either of you guys managed to catch the town hall this week. It was a little bit underwhelming, but there was some big news drops, and namely Aggie, and I may be putting words in his mouth, but pretty much came out and said that Rebellion will hit shelves in 2023. What was your take on that? And Hep, I know you're a huge proponent of having cards packs always available on shop shelves and that sort of stuff. And I know you were very against the Rift Watchers burn, very against the Chaos Legion burn. But Virus, what was your response to that? I mean, personally, it sounds like I'm making the assumption that excites you, getting the new cards, getting the new meta, all of that sort of stuff. But from a community standpoint, do you feel like it's the right time, the right move? What's your general thoughts on Rebellion coming as far as we know at some point in the next 3, 4, 5 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly exciting for me to think that be closer, that I can kind of get in there and try to have a comparable deck to the top players. So that'll be fun to be able to play at that high level. But at the same time, I think it was maybe I don't know if it was the town square, the last town hall. Aggie had also said that they wouldn't be selling Rebellion until Chaos Legion packs went up in value. That they couldn't see selling the Rebellion packs when Chaos Legion packs are selling for $1.20. And so this is kind of he's more putting a time frame on it, where he's saying that it's coming out this year, which I missed that part. I saw the question about I saw him say something about how it's going to be before March or April of next year, but I didn't see the second comment about the fact that it's going to be in this year. But I've heard plenty of people say that that it's going to be this year. So it's interesting. I know that they definitely need to have revenue, and I want them to be to grow as a company and be able to have the developers that are gonna they're gonna put towards land or towards whatever else comes next. So I mean, I hope it goes well, but it's tough to see that the sales are going to be that high when Chaos Legion packs are still, so inexpensive.
Yeah, it'll be tough. I mean, like you said, I'm big proponent of them having stuff on the shelves for people to buy, and I know that Chaos Legion is still very cheap, but some of the stuff on the secondary market is difficult for people who aren't as familiar with crypto to access necessarily, or it's not as easy as just buying credits to. Though can you can buy those packs in the in-game market with credits and stuff now as well, so that does kind of alleviate that. But yeah, I mean, I just don't want them to see them put like a ticking clock on it, where there's just not the appetite for maybe the community to be able to buy those decks and get those cards out into the game. Um, I don't know. I don't know what my appetite would be if it's within the next like 3 months. Maybe March or April next year. That would be a lot better. Just with trying to get stuff ready for land. It's just again, it's a lot to focus on. So yeah, I would hate to see it where it's something that seems like it's going to come and go very quickly because they're going to start burning packs again and set a hard date on when all the packs have to go away, and just not have the time to kind of invest in it. We'll see.
Yeah, I feel like the proper order thing. We had Aggie on a couple of months ago at this point, and he kind of referenced that post 1.5, and we've heard this same idea shared throughout the Splinterlands team, pretty much since the beginning of the year, since Lands took the front seat on development for 2023, that gameplay was going to be on the docket for a big overhaul post 1.5, and in my mind, that's what's more than anything else is going to satisfy the current player base is revamping ranked, getting some new gameplay mechanics into the ecosystem, stuff like the arena challenge that Weirdbeard's been championing, battle pass skins, all of this other kind of supplemental stuff to the game. I feel like should take a priority, but I'm with you, Virus. I understand the need for revenue, and the team, they've kind of, ever since I kind of expected a little bit more of a regular update on, granted it's the company's prerogative. They don't need to share finances and state of economics within the company itself. But ever since the layoffs, I kind of felt like, that set precedent for us getting somewhat regular updates on, what is the state of the union over at Team Steam Monsters. And we haven't gotten a whole lot of that. But it's clear outside of Zerial, there's been zero, and that was probably a drop in the bucket. I think, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that Zerial flopped and flopped really hard on the sales front. But outside of that, there has been nothing by the way of providing revenue to the company since Chaos Legion kind of petered out at the very end. Virus, I'm pretty sure I saw you in there the other day with Gank and Keys. Keys was talking about the idea of the team coming up with some alternative revenue streams via land, and finding a way to just get a constant drip of some incoming revenue to the business through lands, and potentially putting out a proposal from the community to suggest said revenue stream. I feel like, until we can get stuff like Battle Pass, until we can get this new set, Rebellion, I'm all for additional revenue, and I feel like putting all of our eggs in the basket of card pack sales is a little risky, and it's if we had Aggie's way, it would be 9 months of revenue, 3 months of no revenue, right? Whereas if we put something like I don't know, time crystals or grain or something that is tied to revenue. While it will obviously be by pure volume much smaller in comparison, it would be constant, right? Because land is the very long term play, and there's always going to be a need for time crystals or grain. As long as Steam Monsters has the lights on, there's going to be demand for these sorts of things, and if there's a small percentage that's tied to going directly to the company's wallet, that's better than nothing. So I was all for the idea. I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on that, and what do you think is a sound, agreeable approach, mutually beneficial approach to kind of achieving that goal of turning on some additional streams of revenue for the company through something like lands?
Yeah, I think I can't remember the time crystals DEC. Is that supposed to be burnt, or is that supposed to be company revenue? Do you remember?
I believe it's burnt. It was in the pre-flight plan. I got that. Actually, pulled it is burned. Yes.
Yes. I mean, those kinds of things like the smaller transaction fees and things like that can happen. Those can build up, for the team too. So those are things you don't really notice as much. I'm sure large card sellers notice that 5% fee when they're selling cards, but those smaller things that you don't really notice that are revenue for the team from a large number of people that can, I'm sure, help out over time. I know that there's a few people that are real excited for things with like the battle pass, and I know that's probably a larger development effort. That's probably still a little ways out, but if they could, secure themselves with the next pack sale, whether it's the promo pack or Rebellion, if they can hold themselves over to get to that battle pass, and I think they could probably get a more steady revenue stream going. And you were mentioning too that they're not really talking as much about how they're doing financially too. I know they had been looking for outside investors, so maybe from a business perspective, it's not as good of an idea to share those kinds of things as vocally when you're looking for investors. You never really know.
Yeah. So talking to land, I know you came in around the same time as us in Chaos Legion. How much land did you pick up? Did you kind of pick it up all at once, a little bit over time, and what kind of made you decide to get on land?
Well, seeing as I just bought 2 plots right before we got on today,
Oh wow.
I was picking them up over time. So I originally had, I think, 4 plots that I had bought when they were still pretty high. They were still pretty high up there before. And my goal, like I like to set goals in the game, things that I want, or a place I want to reach, whether it's with land or with gameplay or, SPS or whatever it might be. And so my goal at the time was 10 plots. I wanted to get to 10 plots, and then I didn't have the cards exactly to work them, but I just wanted to get to that point, and that was one of my goals I wanted to reach. I think right now I'm at about 18. So I've been slowly kind of accumulating them as they go on the market. And in the region where most of my plots are, it's not quite as exclusive as Gankland, but Area 51 with Aftersound there, that for whatever reason that region has been at a premium. So all the plots that were between $30 and $40 were never in Area 51. They were always $70 for a common plot, or a lot more for the occupied or magical plots than most of the other areas. So anytime that someone kind of isn't really realizing the premium that's there in Area 51, I scoop up the plots. And the thing is too, is I had my plan, I had my spreadsheet with everything. I think I had 2 more cards to place, and now I've got 10 more cards to figure out 10 more spots to figure out where to put cards into, which is kind of wrecks the plans there, but it's part of the fun of it. I get to build up and scrape together some resources to put in there.
Yeah, appreciate you sharing that spreadsheet, by the way. It's definitely made its round since you sent it over to me. I sent it to Hep, I sent it to Waskell, I sent it to a couple of the other guests that we've had on in the past. So it's made its rounds. I wonder if you could track how many times that document has been copied and shared, because it's well into double digits at this point. So yeah, thank you again for sending that. Man, Lands, do you kind of feel like, is 1.5 make or break? Do we have a little bit of leeway if 1.5 under, and there's, no matter how spectacular of a launch 1.5 is, we're going to have that niche crowd that comes out and announces how underwhelming and disappointing and insignificant 1.5 is. So there's always going to be that sentiment that is shared. But if the overwhelming thought is that 1.5 is a flop, do we have, as a community, do you feel like we have the gumption to survive until 1.6? Do you feel like is this as pivotal a moment in Splinterlands history as I think a lot of folks are deeming it as?
I mean, I think 1.5 is, so we had the land, you can claim your plot. That was the first thing. That was probably 1.0 or maybe 0.5 or something like that. But we had the claim your plot, then we had the survey your land. Those things were something that, like, oh, it was cool to see the map. It was cool to see where your plot is. And then it was cool to see, which plots you got and their rarity. But after that, there hasn't been talk about the surveys or what happened in the surveys and things like that since then. It's not that there was it was fun at the time, and I'm happy to have my plots and see where they're at, and I can kind of figure out some things with in my region that's going on. But I wouldn't say that it's currently bringing in excitement to the gameplay. So the 1.5 is going to be where you can stake cards and you can start farming resources, whether it's grain, SPS, or research tokens. But for the most part at this point in time, it's a DeFi game. It's just a kind of staking resources to try to get resources back. So it's not quite an exciting game as much as I think like the actual playing the game is a strategic game, and that you can play cards, learn strategies and things like that. Land is more of a DeFi and resources game. There's not a whole lot that is like an exciting strategic thing to do with it. It's more the fun of, which I find it fun, is like planning out all the resources and kind of upgrading my cards that I'm going to put in there to kind of squeeze out, now I'm at a surplus of grain. Do I want to move this other plot to SPS or research? And how much I have a gold foil card that I have on this plot. Should it go into my occupied plot instead? And then especially when 1.6 comes out, or possibly a little bit after, when we can unlock the soulbound cards, I'm gonna have to completely rework my plots at that point and refigure out my strategies. So I know that me personally, I'll enjoy figuring out the strategy of how to place my cards. And I think that some people that have a large amount of territory can figure out their strategies and have some time with it. But for most people, for the average person that is going to have, maybe 3 to 4 plots max, there's not a whole lot to it. Maybe you can kind of upgrade your cards and stuff like that, but until 2.0 comes out, where you have the 50 different resources and that you have to figure out, possibly what type of building am I going to build? Is that building going to give me, do I have to build storage? And then I have to build a lumber mill to upgrade my woodworking and things like that. And then eventually when you can create items and spells from gathering all that stuff together, I think that's where the real fun and gameplay comes out, is when you're starting to actually craft NFTs to use in the game. And I think they do have some other ideas that they're just kind of, shooting around about possibly having some gameplay elements in inland. So, you know, if they had like a territory wars where you could somehow face off against neighboring territories in like a guild battle type thing, where the winner would, let's say, get a bonus 10% productivity for the season. Let's say the season was 2 weeks. If they had something like that, then, you know, then we get into the more gameplay elements that are inland. And I think that'd be a lot of, you know, that'd be a lot of fun, and kind of working with your neighbors to kind of get something like that together. But back to your question about 1.5 being, if it's a flop or if it's not really exciting for people, I think people have to have expectations for what land 1.5 is and what it's not, and that it's, you know, it's a building up of your resources until the next phase comes out. And so it's kind of still like getting ready for that next phase, rather than the full game is here and everything's released. It's not, still coming out. It's still going to be a little bit.
Well, do you feel like, you know, I think the most exciting thing for me about 1.5 is watching what happens to DEC, what happens to the card market. And I think, you know, we're all kind of waiting with bated breath. Is this going to be the you know, the missing cog in the machine that is Splinterlands, that is going to, you know, trigger DEC on a, you know, positive trajectory towards PEG? No, so in my mind, that's what's most exciting about 1.5. Yeah, I'm excited to play the resource game. I'm excited to start generating the research tokens. HEP, I don't know if you know this, but we lucked out in our choice of territory by landing with Sir Marshall. What's the region castle owner prefix title? It's not Marshall. It's or is it Marshall?
I don't know.
Either way,
Marshall sounds right. We'll go with Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall. Okay, so we lucked out with landing in the same territory as Marshall Yabamat, who has been very vocal in saying that, you know, whether his plots are magical or not, he's going to invest fully in going gung ho after the research tokens. So being part of the Wild Northeast, we will benefit from having Yabamat as a neighbor. So all of that sort of supplemental stuff is super exciting. But for me, what I'm most looking forward to is this what the community, what the ecosystem needs to push DEC towards. You know, I think you'd be delusional to assume that this is gonna, you know, we've had a lot of things that have come into play to work on the mechanics to you know, get that flywheel triggered. So you'd be delusional to assume that 1.5 is going to overnight push us to PEG. But if we can, you know, we've been hovering around, you know, 75-85% to PEG for quite some time. If we could push that average up to, you know, 85 to 90%, you know, I think that would be, in my mind, that would be a success, and enough to kind of, you know, satiate the community until 1.6 and land surfing, which is going to allow landholders and non-landholders to participate in Praetoria. You know, there's a bunch of other stuff that's going to come into play with 1.6, but yeah, are you guys kind of viewing 1.5 is that going to be your general measure of success as well? Is what happens to DEC, what happens to the card market? How are you guys kind of going into 1.5 with a gauge for measuring success?
Yeah, we were it's kind of funny, you're talking about Gank and Walking Keys stream. We were just kind of talking about this last night about what's the measurement of success, and is it a certain percentage of land being utilized? Is it kind of the effects of it, like you're saying? Is it the effects of DEC maybe going up, or people pulling out of the LPs to stake their DEC in land, and then possibly, you know, purchasing DEC to stake? So I think the success of 1.5 for me is just there's a certain measure. Like people are saying 20 to 30% of land being utilized. That's where I think for just 1.5 prior to land staking coming out, or not land staking, land surfing. So prior to land surfing, I think that 20 to 25% of land being utilized, that would be a good measurement of it being used and of the players that own the regions wanting to actually start to utilize their land. But I think just a successful implementation, that's for me, that's the thing, is that as long as it works, then we're good. Because if there's a mistake, and that's why people might be upset with the delays, but if there's something that goes wrong in the beginning and something doesn't work right, then there could be a big problem. I was worried originally when we surveyed, if there had been a problem at that point, if they had done, there was a bug that gave, 5 people a keep per territory, then that would be, the end of the world, because you'd have people that'd be so upset if there's something big that happened like that. And with 1.5, I mean, the stakes aren't quite as high because we already know what we have. But as long as they can get out a successful product and people can start building up, and everyone wants to rush in and put their cards in and put stake their DEC, and everyone's pulling the Roonies from the game. It's I think that would be the success, is if the community participates and that it works as they're intending it to.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, getting it out right now, it just seems like getting it out would be a success. And yeah, having it work. I think it seems that they put the time in to develop it so that, the consequences that they hope will happen, the intended consequences will actually happen. It might not happen right away, but yeah, having it work and people getting involved with it, I think that'll, it'll get it started. Getting it started, I think is the big thing at this point. What do you kind of think? Do you have any kind of idea on, what the delays have been? Is it, as a software developer, do you think maybe they're just trying to add features, some of these things like the land surfing and things like that, being able to implement some of the cool stuff later? Do you think it's just, getting that foundation right so you can add those things later, or is it just trying to get all the bugs out and, get it to be, just like a working product, like you said?
So if they've been saying basically that land itself is about the same size code wise as the entire site is right now, so it's a very complicated process, and they haven't had to do something that was quite as complicated or involved since, for quite a long time. They haven't had to, I'm trying to think of the last large system they built out, but it was probably splitting modern and wild, which isn't even nearly as big as what land is. But the larger the process, so in a large complicated process, you're basically at 3/4 of the work is done in dev, and then 1/4 of the work is done in QA. And when that QA starts, then there's recycle time that's going to happen. So if they've been going along and most of the things they built out have been 1 week of dev, 2 days of QA, and it's done, now they had 6 months of dev or 8 months of dev. If you take 1/4 of that, that's a month to a month and a half, 2 months of QA that's going to have recycle time. So while they might have been code complete and ready to, the devs may have been done, if that QA wasn't done yet, I don't think that they were thinking about how long that QA is going to be and how much recycle there's going to be, which, is not any fault of anyone in particular, but it's just kind of more, I don't think they had experience in building a complicated system like that recently. So I think that's kind of what was the delay there.
Were you, I'm sure you've seen this, and I'd love to get your perspective through the lens of a developer. On the most recent town hall, Weirdbeard kind of announced the kind of caveats of this code before it goes into production. What is left outstanding that needs to be looked at? I was, obviously not coming from a software development background. I was a little bit taken aback by the list of things, not the size of the list, but the components of the list. It felt like several of these items are pillars of 1.5, and that these things kind of came out as functionality outstanding that needs to be addressed. I've got the list handy. It was castles and keeps, grain relating to harvest, totem fragments, and time crystals. Obviously, I think castles, keeps, and grain are probably the heaviest hitters of these, but the others are no slouches either. I was taken aback. It felt like those, like I said, are kind of foundational pieces of what 1.5 is meant to bring to the table. Were you a little bit surprised? Did you kind of feel like, is that par for the course? Is my mind kind of over exaggerating the surprise there? What's your take?
So, I think everyone's been worried about, or not really worried about, happy that Farpatrab is going on vacation, that he was getting on break, but worried that he wasn't going to get it out before then. And he's obviously been instrumental in getting land worked on. And I could probably bet that he's laid the foundation for all of these processes, existing and working. But I'm sure that each of these processes have certain bugs, whether it's, let's say for using time crystals, the process is probably there that can, you can use your time crystals to speed up the work or speed up your clearing. But what happens when you've worked 10% of it, and then you use time crystals for 50% of it, and then you're going to clear the remaining X% of it? There are certain test cases that you do that it might seem like, the wording they gave to it is that like time crystals aren't working. But really what it is that in this scenario, when you test it out, that there's still some issue with it that they have to clear up. So I don't think it's that the entire process itself isn't working. I think the groundwork's probably there. I think that there's probably just some test cases that they've gone through and found an issue with. And Cryptomancer had put he'd put screenshots out on in the LAN channel. And so he shared a whole bunch of screenshots, and a lot of these he was putting little comments like afterwards. He was saying like, oh yeah, this one needs work too, and this one needs work too. A lot of those things were when it was calculating the numbers. So it was saying, when you display how much grain that you're actually producing here, or how much, what's the total number of your DEC that you have to have staked here. And it's just like on the screen, they weren't showing little things. So it seemed like there's a lot of little cleanup work that kind of had to be done still. And so I think Farpatrad going on vacation, and they brought in all the other developers to start, kind of cleaning up this stuff was more par for the course. That, I don't think that was too big of an issue, that they can just kind of clean up and look at certain issues that might be there without having had worked on the process the entire time.
So what's your prediction time-wise on when 1.5 actually drops?
I was wondering if that question was going to come up. I'm glad you took that one, Hip.
So I'm guessing it's coming to Mavs. I'd say probably within like a week. I bet it comes.
Okay.
I think it comes to Mavs. I think the little cleanup stuff for the most part is, I think, well, probably by, let's say not this Thursday, but next Thursday. So I'm kind of thinking that it'll be out by, so maybe a week and a half. But once it goes to Mavs, I expect that there's still going to be some recycle, because everyone's going to be hitting it and trying different things. And so I don't think it's a 1 week. It might be a 1 week Mav cycle if they've really cleaned it up, but I think there's still gonna be a lot of things that are reported and things that they might not have thought of that people would try. And if the Mavs do, everyone's excited to try it out. And I think that a lot of people are going to be hitting it and trying to see what they can do and what they can break and stuff like that. So I think it could end up being still another couple weeks after it goes to Mavs before it actually goes into the site.
So September is
Yep.
is our safe bet. All right. You're a Mav. Is that right, Virus?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a list of, I'm sure as a developer, you can't wait to get in and try and be on the other side of, QA and try and break things. Do you have a list of like, are there tricks of the trade that you've got to try and break things and really stress test the system?
Well, there's some things that I don't know that we'll be able to test out in Mavs. So I don't know that we'll be able to do the packages, the starter packages on fresh plots they gave us, because that may have been shut down for that time. So you have to see that you get the power core. I know that there's been a lot of talk because they changed up how the power cores work. They changed it from what was in the white paper. So now the building in the box gives you a power core, but then that power core is now account bound. So if you were to trade after 1.5, if you were to trade a plot that has a building in a box, that power core stays on your account, and the plot would then, with the building in the box, would then get traded and not have the power core anymore. So I mean, there's certain things testing out with that I want to see how it works. There's cooldowns with cards, and yeah, I kind of want to play around with it. I want to see what I can do to mix it up and confuse the system. But I worked as QA before I worked as a dev, and that was a fun job. When you're not the one that has to fix it, and you're in charge of trying to break it, it's a pretty fun job.
That's awesome. So yeah, so now there we get the official prediction here. You heard it here first, guys. It'll be out. It'll be a Mad server, week and a half. Definitely gonna make it work. That's great. And so yeah, what if you find like a really awesome cheat or really awesome advantage or something that doubles your production output or some bug? Do you still tell the team, or you hold on to that one and hope nobody catches it?
I mean, I think me with my 18 plots, if there is a bug, then I'm not going to be the one that gets to take full advantage of it. So I'm hoping to just take my little, slice of the pie, my small slice of the pie that I can get, and take it. But so I'd definitely report it, just so that there's not, a region holder out there that's, got 4 million PP on some plot that's raking it all in. But yeah, I'll definitely report that up. And it's funny, we're talking about the time frame. I think Darkest Night and Aftersound have been saying they've been saying land 2024. So
just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
With your 18 plots, what do you think what's your kind of breakdown to SPS, mining, grain, Secret of Pretoria research? You think you're gonna go a little bit of each, or just focus on one or two things?
So when I was at my 10 plots, it was pretty easy because I got lucky with my 10 that I had surveyed in the 100 plot survey. I had 2 occupied plots, 2 magical plots, and 2 other rare plots out of the 10.
Wow.
And then I had 4.
That's really good luck.
Oh yeah, that was excellent. And so it was perfect. It was all laid out. I had, 20% SPS, 20% magical, and everything else can do grain. And now that I've kind of mixed it up a bit and I've added some more plots in there, I think I can balance it out with the grain, where I can kind of stick a couple of the other rare plots on SPS. And for me, like, yeah, the Secret of Pretoria is, I'm still going to put something towards it to get it going. But, I'm kind of wanting to, one of my other goals is to, get SPS staked so that I don't have to rent. I'm trying to build up those SPS bags so I can have that staked. And I'm hoping that land can kind of, at least in this 1.5 phase, help me out in building up that stake a little bit further.
Do you think you're going to get a better return on SPS with those two occupieds, or and maybe another one dedicated to it than you are just by right now with the airdrop sort of points we're getting just for holding land?
I definitely do. So the people that are region holders, they've been getting some, I can't remember how much it is, but some crazy amount of SPS every time. And they are going to, if the current community sentiment is that they'll be only working 20% of their land, it's going to be very tough for them to get the same returns as they were getting when they were just getting it for holding land.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that the people that were the smaller holders and have only a few plots should be able to take a bigger slice of the pie than they had before, because they can work all of their plots. So I think in the beginning, the smaller holders will be able to come out ahead, or more ahead than they were before, by taking that bigger slice of the pie. Sinister Tales from the Cryptomancer done a video where he kind of did like a breakdown of what he was saying, that there's a very few number of people that own like 51% of the land. I think it was like 67 people or something like that. And he was kind of breaking down he was saying, like, let's say that they work 20%. And then this other group holds, 30% of people hold greater than between like 100 and 400 plots. And so he's kind of saying that the people that own under like 30 plots will be close to working 85 to 100% of their plots. So that smaller portion or those people that hold the smaller portion of plots will be working at 100% rate. And I think they're just going to be able to get more of the rewards early on until the larger landholders can grow their assets on land and kind of start working more.
Yeah, that Splinter Cards, shout out to those guys. They've got a fantastic rich list, and man, that curve falls off real fast. The looks like there's 51 accounts that have greater than 1,000 plots, and then ranks 52 to what's the number I just saw, to 300 fall between 100 and less than 1,000. And then after that, it's purely double digits. So I'm wondering, I'm definitely of the camp. I've got a smaller number of plots. I've got 7 plots, but I plan on being 100% utilized on day one of 1.5. So it's going to be really interesting to see how many of the folks fall into the camp like the three of us, where we're smaller plot holders, but we hit that 100% utilization right out of the gate. Are you guys prepared? Are you guys, I know you guys have started cranking the numbers on the spreadsheets and have been accumulating cards for months on end and stacking that DEC, but are you guys planning on putting rubber to the road at full throttle on day one?
Yes, I mean, I have pretty much everything ready except for those last 2 plots I just picked up. So yeah, I have the DEC ready, and I had bought 1,500 more time. I've got enough time crystals for I think maybe 12 or 13 of my plots. So I'll still have a number of plots that are kind of clearing when that's going, but I expect to have SPS being mined day one is what I'm hoping for. So the only thing is there's a lot of math involved with how much grain I have from the starter package and how long that's going to last. I think that's going to last probably about 7 or 8 days for me. And so till I have to have everything kind of balanced out, and I have to have my grain plots up and running to support the clearing of the other plots. So there's a little bit of math I'll still have to figure out in my spreadsheet about how long my leash is, because this is one of the things that I was saying early on, is that people aren't really thinking enough about how much grain actually costs and how much it can add up over time. I was just in Splinterlands TV stream, and someone was just starting to figure out their plots. It was J-Ron, and so he was kind of going through and he was figuring out like, oh yeah, I've got all these gold alpha cards. I'm going to throw them on this plot and it'll be great. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, oh man, he doesn't know how much grain that's going to cost and how much DEC. If you have a 500 DEC per hour, that grain bill that you're going to have to pay, I mean, that just stacks up over time. It's you won't be able to get your harvest until you have that grain ready to use. So if people are not paying attention to balancing out their plots and balancing out how much grain is being produced to how much they're using on the plots, the non-grain producing plots, then there could be some big shocks to people that aren't ready.
How about you, Hep? Are you going to hit the ground running?
I'll probably be good to go. I have 15 plots. I think I'll be good to go on 10. I have 1 occupied. I have 2 magical, and I guess the plan was to get the magical on the Secret of Praetoria and the occupied mining SPS, and try to balance out what I can mine SPS on otherwise, and with green. I think I'll maybe not prioritize the Secret of Praetoria on both those magical ones as much until I can make sure I maybe have 2 or 3 the occupied and 1 or 2 others up and running and with mining SPS and balance out the grain before I really start working on those, because I think that'll the benefits of that will be slower to develop, and I think I'll lose too much by not getting on that sort of like day one. So that's my plan. So I think I'll be kind of ready for that, and then just kind of try to build it up from there.
Yeah, well, while we were talking through this stuff, I just came to the realization that this might be the only rich list I've ever appeared on. Me and my meager 7 plots, I'm in the top 1,000 holders. So you guys are well ahead of me at double and nearly triple that. I'm curious, Virus, about Area 51. So obviously it's 100 plots. Aftersound's in there. You're in there. Between the two of you guys, that's pretty much 25% of Area 51. What does the makeup look like of Area 51? I'm sure you guys got a Discord and have pretty good tabs on most of the community members that are participating in Area 51. Of that 100 plots, do you guys have a pretty good idea of who's holding what and what is contribution going to be looking like when 1.5 is out?
So it was a fun story about how that whole thing happened too. We had planned to kind of claim our plots at the same time, Aftersound and I and a few people. And then Walking Keys and Gank had kind of invited Aftersound to a stream to do to get the plots location and stuff like that. So we had kind of thought that we still wanted our plots to be together, and so we didn't know if we kind of mixed up in the middle of 40 people claiming at the same time whether we get our plots together. So we had Aftersound was had his separate stream going, and he was going to kind of wave when he was going to claim his, so everyone kind of claimed together. And so we did that, and it was funny because so we got our plots together in Area 51, and then after that was the group survey. And I mean, I've just been kind of going over and beyond with the land stuff, just doing the research, because I'm just finding it fun doing the spreadsheets and the numbers and stuff like that. And so I was in Mavs, and when they were testing out the survey stuff, I was always trying to claim Area 51 and see where the keep was, for instance. And the one time I did it, it was right where Aftersound's plots were. And so I told him, I was like, you got the keep there, maybe there's a bug where the keep's gonna stay in the same spot from the Mav server to the production or to the main site. And he's like, oh man, you just jinxed me. He's like, there's no way I'm not gonna get it. And he didn't say it, but he was still kind of hyped that he saw like the keep on his plot. And sure enough, we did a live stream where we were doing the survey, and he hit that keep on that same, like in the same 3 plots that he had. He hit the keep there, and we just went nuts. It was so cool. But yeah, so he's got the keep for the region, and he didn't buy it. He got it just out of the luck of the draw. It was the coolest thing.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, good for Astrosound, and just from a community perspective, what a good representative of the community to be in charge of the keep. No pressure, Aftersound, but a lot of people are looking to you for leadership there, bud. Yeah, man, exciting stuff. What about the rest of what are some of the other names that are taking part in Area 51?
I know Butters has a plot in there, a few plots possibly. There's I'm trying to remember, there was a whole bunch of people that were in there, but I mean, it's just a few of the regular kind of viewers of the channel. Dehoda is in there. Baby Puppy, Nilsson Talks. I think Vet V has some in there. I know Level Up Life PH has some in our tract. Instrumental. So a lot of the names that you see around D Rambo. There's quite a few guys in there that are the usuals of the community that you'll see out there. But but that's just in our territory. So there's there's 9 other territories with people that they weren't really part of that claim. And there's some names that I hadn't heard of before. Like one of the big, I think one person that had 2 tracks had the name Con Pike. And so it's kind of interesting seeing, thinking about the fact that there was OGs that may have bought land and they may not be playing, but they're still claiming and surveying their land at this point, or they may not be, talking to the community, but it's interesting to know that there's people that might not be that active in the game, but still kind of lurking around the community, just waiting to use their stuff.
Yeah, I picked up on some of that too. There's actually 2 guys in, so when we originally, I claimed with Hep and Waskel together, the 3 of us, and we ended up in Region 102. And I subsequently went out and bought, but I kept within the Wild Northeast territory, but I picked up a couple of other pieces of land, and there's a few that are for sale on the third-party markets that are in 102 that are exactly comparable to what I picked up. And I've reached out to some of these names, and I've never, these like exactly like you said, OGs that must have purchased land many moons ago and have just, kind of claimed, surveyed, and turned around and relisted, but reached out to see if we could come to some sort of trade agreement, because I'd love to have all of my plots in Region 102. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we have some new big names kind of reemerge from times past that have just kind of been, lying in wait, waiting for land to finally come to fruition. They've been waiting a long time. maybe this is what they're waiting for.
Yeah, we had quite a price premium on the plots in our region as well. I feel like it's even more. I was just looking at the prices, and yeah, like I feel like the cheapest common plot was, like in the mid 70s, low 80s, and that's still what it is. And other places you're seeing them for like $40, and they were at a time where some of them were like $30. We never had any dips in price like that at least that I saw. So yeah, I don't know what it is that certain places are. It's just like such a weird that the price is so skewed, double or more for the same common, natural plots in one place as another.
Yeah, it's really fun watching. I think land has the potential to open up a whole new aspect of social interaction for the game, which is exciting. And Splinter Cards, the interface is awesome in that you can key in the particular region that you're looking for, and it will show you, who's the castle owner, who's the keep holder, who's, in order of, largest landholder to smallest, who's comprising the region. And we've got some pretty big names in ours as well. We've got Crypto Eater, which I didn't realize, but Crypto Eater is the biggest landowner in Region 102. Fighter for Freedom is
that either.
Yeah.
We could have talked about that when he had him on the podcast the other week.
Yeah, we'll have to get him back on.
I think maybe he did mention. I think when we were talking, I think he did mention that he had some plots in 102, but I just didn't realize it was that many.
Oh, yeah, he's got 116. Fighter for Freedom, Hepthorn, you're at the top of the rich list on 102 with your 13 plots there, bud.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I see a couple of YGG brawler names in there as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to what is the social aspect that could be born out of Praetoria. I think there's the implications are massive for, like, exactly like you said. I would love to see that come into play, Virus, where you could do like territory raids, and some of that bleeds over into ranked play benefit or guild brawl benefit or something like that. And the day where we have, full-fledged arenas built on particular plots of land, it would be so cool if, Aftersound runs his usual weekend tournaments, for example, and we can host it at Darkest Night Arena, and have, I'm just envisioning Darkest Night like picking a soundtrack and picking some strobe lights and, having some cool, like, welcome to the arena announcement. I think that the potential is really, really massive for what could come of land. And, obviously I think I speak for everybody in saying that the frustration, of course, is understood and it's real and it's there. But the reality is we've been waiting for 3 years for land. What's a few more weeks to really make sure we get it right. And I'm just excited by, the premise of what land could unlock for the game, and longer term seeing the marriage between Praetoria and traditional Splinterlands ranked play. Sky's the limit. I feel like the options are endless for what could be possible with Praetoria coming to Splinterlands.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is that everything. Right now, we're kind of figuring out all of our stuff for 1.5. I mean, everything changes when there's the 50 resources in there. When Plains is the one that gets a grain boost, and you have one Plains, but you were using that for magical research, and then you got to switch that up to do whatever it's going to do at that point. And, people are going to have, a lot of different plots and have to completely change up their strategy at that point of how they're going to farm, what buildings they're going to build, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, from the aspect of strategy and how to implement your resources to work which things, there's a lot more to come with 2.0. But with 1.6, though, I'm curious, do you guys have soulbound cards that you're planning to unlock for land?
I don't have any that are. I'm still trying to get mine. I do mostly gold level, and so I'm still trying to get some of mine, up there, up to that max level, or even just to gold, max level 4 gold. So I don't really have any. Yeah, I just don't see myself. And then, like, the one, I have some like gold foil legendaries, but I think I would probably like playing with them too much to want to put them on land. But yeah, we'll see. That's the thing is, I've been struggling recently. It just seems like because I played in both modern and wild, and I really liked playing in wild. because I just like those cards. And I had, when prices dropped, I picked up some of those old school, really strong sort of alpha beta legendary cards that have been helpful, and even some other ones, commons, and there are just like random cards here and there. And now I'm looking at it, and it's just like the gameplay is a little bit easier in modern now without the bots. I have more of a full deck in modern than I do in wild still. The returns are so much better in playing in modern with the SPS per win. And so I'm just like, I'm struggling to be motivated to play in wild, but I have these cards, and so yeah, I'm thinking that maybe some of those cards will get put to land, because it'll just be more worthwhile there. So
I never thought that we would hear the day that Hep is legitimately contemplating jumping entirely into modern.
I know, man.
I got pegged with, and this is I've long expressed my disdain for wild, and in particular a handful of cards. I was late to choose my fray in this most recent brawl cycle, and I got pinned with the gold wild. So I'm right in your world, Hep, and oh man, I do not envy you. I think I only had seven battles. And I think in 3 of them, I ran into Elemental Phoenix. I hate that card with a passion.
Yeah.
Like Elemental Phoenix with Yasik is just it's so painful. But back to your question, Virus, with the Soulbound cards, man, I have really grown accustomed to seeing that 10% bump on ranked. It's going to be really tough to pry those cards from my my gameplay collection and justify putting them on land just for that 10% bump. It's so nice. And until I get my SPS at a place where, I'm legitimately what I feel like my collection should be earning, I think I'm just going to have to keep the gold foils in the gameplay collection. I think along with everybody else, we were all sleeping on gold foils for the longest time, and you could get those gold foil legendary reward cards, Oceanus and Harklaw and what's his name, Jin Bilchka, for under 20, 25, $30, and Chaos Legion legendary gold foils were going for $40. Yeah, gone is the day that was ever possible. So on the bright side, there is at least an artificial floor for what I think those soulbound reward cards can and should go for when we have them fully unlockable. But until that day kind of is fully realized, I have a really hard time justifying taking those cards out of my gameplay collection just for the 10%. Yeah. What about you, Virus? Are you planning on pulling the plug and sending those guys down the pipeline to the farmland, to the trenches?
Yeah, unfortunately I am. And I kind of had a little bit of the foresight not to actually get up a surplus of where I'd have them, but I wanted one of, I got Jared Scar, I got Jin O'Shaughnessy and Harklaw and Jin Bilchka. So I got a max copy of those gold foil. And the thought of putting gold foil Jared Scar out to pasture to work land, it hurts, because I love that card. I love using them. And just seeing that gold foil on top of getting that 10% bonus, it's a nice one to have. But man, I'm going to have him working in on a plot where it's, gets a benefit from life, and having that gold foil on there, that's a huge amount of big PP that's working in the land there. So yeah, unfortunately I'm going to have to switch Jared Scar, but I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll be pulling him off the farms and back into my deck just to have him.
What about Rooney? Are you stacked with Rooney to keep one in gameplay and have several run in land, or are you going to be relegating all of your Rooney to the farm life also?
So I have 3 Rooney, and but I also have 4 accounts that I have working. So I've been having 2 of my Rooney, on other 2 accounts for the time being. So I'll probably be pulling those off. But on my main, I mean, no matter what happens with land or whatever else, my main goal in the game is to kind of have a full modern deck to play with and end up being, one of the better modern players. I wanted to hit those leaderboards and kind of earn that spot there. So I'll definitely be keeping a Rooney on my account because I think it is still a very valuable card to have. I think I get plenty of play from my Rooney, so I'll be keeping at least one on my main account.
What do you think once we get past Rebellion and we start looking at the next set coming out? Is that going to be those Chaos Legion cards go to land? Do they get sold? Do they get rented? Do you think you'll stay sort of in Modern, or will you have to reevaluate at that point and say, well, maybe I'll play in Wild some because I just like some of these cards so much?
I'm hoping for a rerun of history where we get a 2-year time where I get to just play with Rebellion and Chaos Legion. I don't want to think about that time. I know a lot of people that were came in with Untamed and had full Untamed decks, or even before that have had to think about that. And I mean, even now I have to think about that with my own. I have a Shield Bearer. I have a few of those cards that if I'm going to be focusing on Modern only for when Rebellion comes out, do they get how will I still even be using them, or what will I be using them for? Kron, I bought a Max Kron to kind of have too. So it's like, if I sell him, yeah, I could sell him, but will there be tournaments and stuff like that I'll still be trying to enter and can use him in, or Brawl Phrase where I might get thrown into where I can still use him, maybe just rent him out for that too. But there's a good chance that those cards from Untamed will lose value when Untamed rolls into Wild only. So the smart thing to do is to probably sell early, and if you want to keep that card, then you just buy it back if it goes down. But I don't know, I've grown attached to some of those cards, and I kind of want to keep them to the very end.
I'm with you, man. Almo is the very first that comes to my mind. I bought him early, and I talked to him probably a good year ago when I was going through the idea of shedding myself of all the Untamed cards. I sold probably 95% of them. Didn't sell Almo. Almo never lost value. I feel like he's the most, he's immune to recession also, apparently, because his price per BCX has. Yeah, he
hit like 26.
It has not budged.
There's a couple of them for like $26 a BCX for like a day or two, and I was like, maybe I should start buying a couple, and then shot back up to like 33 again. So yeah.
Yeah, man. It's interesting that you say that you think Untamed is going to lose value. How? I was wondering about this, not specifically for Untamed, more so for Chaos Legion. What can we put into place to kind of prevent that from happening? Is it something along the lines of, when a set gets bumped from Modern to strictly Wild, is there an increase on PP that these cards can provide via land? Is that enough to offset the value in being playable in 2 leagues to just 1, and therefore there's a boost in production points being part of only a Wild set? What is that even worth pursuing? Do we think should we just let the market and determine where that actual value should land? I was thinking, because cards like Kitty, cards like Almo, cards like Kron, they're just as valuable in Wilds, arguably more valuable in Wilds, just because they have more cards to play with in that meta and create some very unique circumstances. But yeah, I was thinking bots being only legally allowed in wilds. Those cards are almost auto win if you've got them on your account and available for a bot to play with. So I'm just exercise of thought. What do you think about how and should we try to retain some of that value that will be lost when these cards go from 2 leagues to 1?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a difficult question. I think there's a lot of people that have been asking that question for a long time. I mean, that's, right now there's the debate about the alpha gold foil tournaments that exist for very few people to play in and with massive rewards. And so, they've been kind of, what the thought was that those alpha gold foils now get such a big boost on land that maybe they can, get rid of those tournaments that have been, the majority of the community has been not been able to participate in, because now they've at least given a different value to those cards. So, kind of with what you're saying, that, maybe those cards that as they rotate out, that they get a bigger boost on land production, that, that could be the Chaos Legion packs. I think a lot of people believe that they were overprinted, and Hap, you might not like this idea, but there was someone in Aftersound stream that brought up an idea of, what if there was a promo set that you could buy by trading in chaos packs, that those chaos packs would then get burned. Like, let's say that you trade in 1 or 2 chaos packs plus a voucher, and then you get a promo pack that has completely different cards in it. And that would be, let's say, a 2 million or 3 million print set, that we could basically start, reducing the supply of those Chaos Legion cards. And
interesting.
It's an interesting idea to try to reduce the supply, because there's still a huge number of unopened packs that are out there. And I was kind of getting behind it before this most recent town hall, because the idea was that we wouldn't get Rebellion until Chaos Legion packs went up in value. So if people want this set, they go out and buy Chaos Legion packs, and eventually it kind of burns through the supply that's for sale. The cost of the Chaos Legion packs go up, and then now we can get Rebellion. So as much as I thought it was a odd idea, I was kind of behind it, because I want Rebellion to get here. I mean, I don't know about this year, but I don't know about as soon as he's saying it, but I wanted to get here sooner rather than later. So I was saying that could be a good idea. But I mean, that's also, burning even more packs, more Chaos Legion packs than have already been burnt.
Yeah, but no, that's interesting. It would be, like you said, if it's going to get us towards Rebellion, I guess maybe it's worthwhile. That's the thing too. Now, I think one of my biggest things is just that the team should have packs for sale, so that they could get have the opportunity to get revenue, and that lower costs even, or just helps eliminate some barrier to entry for newer players. So if that's something like that, sort of ship has kind of sailed on Chaos Legion, right? So anything that's out there now is a secondary market. So that's not really going to the team. So yeah, if we can burn through them, I guess, and get the team to be able to get Rebellion out sooner, then I'd be for that.
It's a cool concept. I mean, it theoretically it would benefit the card market as well, right? It would put pressure on, the overall supply is obviously going to be evaporating from a pack standpoint. Therefore, folks who are kind of waiting to level up their Chaos Legion deck would probably be making moves on that side from, approaching the card market. Yeah. It's an interesting one. I wonder if the team would even remotely entertain an idea like that. It feels like a very progressive move. I do, I just love the idea that the community continues to churn up these, they get a wild hair, and all of a sudden there's some cool ideas born out of it that can theoretically benefit us all. And yeah, I would love to hear the team's take on something like that. Virus, I want to kind of zoom out with you for a little bit and kind of, go back to your software development lens and kind of how you view the things that are happening at Team Steam Monsters over the last, especially the last year. We've talked about it time and time again here at the People's Guild. Since the layoffs, personally, I feel like, outside of the last couple of months, we have had some really big revolutionary moves happen from, the coding standpoint coming into production and shaking things up and keeping things fresh. And for the most part, despite the bear market, keeping the community engaged, keeping players for the most part happy. Obviously there's salt to be found anywhere, but I feel like generally the players who really care about the game have been satiated. In your opinion, do you feel like is there kind of a software development approach that you were really happy to see the team kind of embrace once the layoffs took place? And have you been generally impressed with kind of the frequency of rollout, the magnitude of code that's been rolled out? And if not, is there something that you think should be done a little bit differently?
So they kind of talked about they'd moved to an agile approach, and it's kind of like a software development buzzword of, oh, we're an agile team now and things like that. But it actually in my company, we did the same thing. We kind of moved to an agile workflow. And one of the big things of it is delivering what they call an MVP product, which is like the minimum viable product to get it out as fast as possible. And then afterwards, you can kind of iterate on whatever it is afterwards. So that lends itself to getting things out a lot faster. You can get things done quicker and out there for people to use and experience. And then you kind of just iterate on it and you make it better over time. A larger company, let's say like Blizzard or something like that, they can't really do that because they have to get the product. Well, I don't know. Sometimes it depends on the company you're talking about, because a lot of times they come out and they got 1,000 bugs anyway. But those bigger companies, everything comes out at once and everything is all done. Whereas a company like Splinterlands, they can kind of shoot out little things here and there. They can throw in small changes that may not be the full picture of what they're thinking of, but at least can get something out there. And there's certain things that they've done that have been quick to roll out, like the no bot modern. That was something that they did in the background, and they rolled it out fairly quickly after we had done the proposal. So, and that was something that I was we had a Discord channel that was trying to brainstorm how to get rid of bots for a long time. And I had conversations with Weirdbeard where I was saying, I'd been pretty much saying what this proposal was before it was out there, that they could put in a CAPTCHA type thing that was kind of hidden in the background that would stop a bot from calling the APIs in the back end. So this is something that I had kind of gone back and forth with Weirdbeard about, and he had kind of bounced some other things off me and things like that. So I mean, those quick things, especially that happened in the beginning of the year, where I thought that was excellent, how they were able to get things out quickly and lots of small changes. And I hope after Land 1.5 comes out that we can kind of get back to that, of a lot of smaller things that give you that serotonin hit that that brings some excitement to the game more often than a larger release like Land 1.5 is, where it takes multiple months to develop.
And do you feel like, so we kind of touched on this at the beginning of the episode, and I'd love to circle back with it. So in my mind, and I think we've agreed throughout a couple of various chat room interactions, Virus, but in my mind, before Rebellion comes, and I know we've talked about the key advantages of getting Rebellion out. It's accessibility to new players, which Hep, you alluded to the non-card market being it's incredibly accessible through the Splinterlands site at this point. It alleviates a lot of the pain that was there previously, having to go to Hive Engine and transfer tokens and then bring the tokens in game, and it's a monumental pain in the ass if you're unfamiliar with the workings of crypto stuff. But the non-card market circumvents all of that, and you buy credits through PayPal, and bada bing, bada boom, you've got packs to open in your mana well or whatever it's called. But so I think that's a primary advantage of Rebellion, which I think can be sustained through the cheap Chaos Legion packs that are going to continue to be available in the non-card market. So in my mind, prior to Rebellion even being anything more than a whisper, I know Nate, we had him on not too long ago, and he mentioned that I think for all intents and purposes, Rebellion is all tied up and got a pretty bow on it already. It's ready to go. So as much as we are as players ready for new cards and ready to shake up the meta, and I think 95% of us are going to be more than happy to bid farewell to Byzantine Kitty forever. I feel like the biggest benefit to the game, to attracting new players, is going to be the gameplay mechanics and changes to how we interact with the game. What does the UI look like? What is that overall experience, new player experience from a gameplay perspective, not just stacking your collection and that sort of stuff. Where does that kind of rank in your list of priority? We've got, let's say, 1.6 Rebellion and all of these gameplay fixes. How would you rank those things in terms of what should we pursue next?
I love my graphics in a game. So the latest game that comes out, seeing the coolest tech, and it's it's not the coolest tech, but seeing at Splinterfest when we got to see Battles 2.0, that was a shock to see. That was so cool looking. So it might not be for the betterment of the game, but I can't wait for Battles 2.0 to come out and be able to see that and kind of enjoy that experience more. So, I think Rebellion is probably the top priority, to be coming out with new cards and possibly new abilities and things like that. But I would love to see Battles 2.0 implemented sooner rather than later. I think it'd give a fresh look that can kind of make Splinterlands compete with the market that's kind of growing right now. There's a number of games that are coming out that have graphics to it, and we're not the only player out there anymore, I guess, so to speak. So I would love to see Battles 2.0 come out.
How about you, Hep?
It's a tough question. I would like to see sort of like the battle pass stuff, that new user experience. I think that's what we've heard. It'll come as soon as they get the DeFi stuff figured out in with land, and so I'd like to see us kind of back that up and focus on that a little bit more. Yeah. But speaking of, sorry, real quick. Speaking of those new stuff coming out, I know they shared if you guys saw that the latest Riftwatcher airdrop card. What are your thoughts on that, Virus? Did you see it, Jangles?
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Virus.
Yeah, no, that's a beast of a card, and it's tough because there's two kind of thoughts on it, because it, as big as it is, it has heal, has reflect, has the return fire and everything, but it is kind of squishy because it really doesn't have the defense in certain areas. That it doesn't have void or void armor, so it could possibly get killed rather quickly with certain matchups. But but then there's other people that are arguing that, oh, it needs to get nerfed in the round of testing. So
It definitely will, right? They typically nerf from they get it like hyped up in the town hall, and then it almost always gets nerfed, right?
yeah. But I don't know. I think that it's just about right. So
Yeah.
I was kind of comparing it to what is a better card, this card or Robo Dragon Knight. So they both have reflection. They both have what is the range? Is it return fire? The range
Return fire, yeah.
So they both have both those abilities, but Robo Dragon Knight has piercing, has more attack, and has higher speed. Whereas the C-Rec.
Yeah.
Yep. So C-Rec has Bloodlust with lower speed and I think 4 attack instead of 3 that Robo Dragon Knight has. So, I mean, they're comparable cards with different stats. And I don't know which one I would actually say is better than the other because Robo Dragon Knight has Void. So Robo Dragon Knight is a little bit more defensive because it has that Void, whereas C-Rec has has healing, has tank heal, or has self heal. So, but they're not really that different of level of card. I don't know that it really needs a nerf.
Yeah, you brought up, and I think it was you, Virus. Feel free to take credit. That a great point. I would argue that C-Rec is probably going to be a bigger difference maker because of the Amplify and the Bloodlust. You know, I love that it's big, slow, dumb tank. The artwork is fantastic, by the way. It's so
artwork is great.
It's so goofy looking, but it's also menacing and clever with the ship like built in around the face. Yeah, super cool. But the Bloodlust is a really interesting one, and I suspect most of that Bloodlust is going to be coming from just throwing back damage. It'll probably miss most of its attacks, but if it's just sitting there getting cleansed and healed and healed and throwing back damage, by the time it's finally ready to attack, it's 4 or 5 speed and 7, 8, 9 damage coming out, and potentially on a Pacibulus team with some trample, and it's a tsunami by that point. So it's a really interesting card, and all of that said, it is squishy, right? Like Giant Killer, you look at some like a Yasic team with some of the Giant Killer, or some of the big heavy hitters from Earth or Dragon, they can pretty much one shot this guy. So I feel like it fits just right as it is. When it works, it's going to work like a charm, but it can definitely be countered and countered hard, and very successfully. I hope it doesn't get nerfed. Part of me thinks like, we're still, I guess it's pretty close. It's about 2 weeks from hitting the packs. Is that right? 2 weeks, 10 days, something like that.
I think it's about right.
I think it's about 9 days last I looked.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess that's about the usual time frame that we get wind of what the upcoming airdrop card is going to be. But I wonder if they went back to the drawing board and like really wanted a monster that's going to surprise and take folks back. Like, man, we've been keeping this community waiting for a whole lot of stuff. We've had no promo card coming out. Like, let's toss a behemoth out there to really shake things up and get folks excited. So I wonder if that was any part of the logic to tossing the stats on this thing. But all of that said, I do think it's balanced, given, if we didn't have things like Giant Killer, if we didn't have things like Reflection Shield, then I feel like this would be 100% OP. But because we have those, counter abilities, I feel like it's fair. It's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah, and I do want to see what it does with Immortalis, which Immortalis should still do a good amount of damage to it, and plus not take that much damage because of the void that the cards have. but I think that's why the Amplify is there, to at least push back some damage on Immortalis cards. So I think a lot of the times they don't plan the stats out until probably like the last few weeks or whatever, until they're getting the card out, because they're usually looking for what is the meta and what needs a counter right now. So when Wraith came out, he was the meta. It was, Wraith with Shield Bearer and there's
Adelaide.
The Adelaide, and then the Untamed card that had
It's a Lone Boatman, or
it's a magic blast card that also has Resurrect.
It's not the sorcerer,
Darius.
the Grandmaster. Darius, yes.
Darius. Yeah.
So you basically, for a little while there, the meta was just you throw those 3 cards together with whatever other cards you could fit in there, and it was, for the most part, it was winning most matches. And then they brought out I think Yasik next. So then they wanted to get around the taunt with Yasik so that you were getting hit from anywhere. You couldn't really, the taunt didn't matter as much anymore. And it still wasn't enough, so they brought out Immortalis. So Immortalis then destroys the shield, and it basically wrecks that team too. So Wraith got that 1-2 punch, and it wasn't quite as strong as it was after that. But now I think at the moment, Immortalis is one of the strongest summoners out there, and it needs some kind of a little bit of counter to it in low speed. Because right now, I think that if you're going to play low speed, you're going to play, currently just for the modern at least, you're playing Obsidian, but the counter to that is Immortalis. So more times than not, you're going to play Immortalis. So it needs some kind of, if water can have a counter to it, then maybe you can start bringing in some different water decks or lily decks to go against Immortalis.
It's really interesting that you call out that the cards are not fully locked in and designs until just before the airdrop comes. It feels like it's part of the collection. It should all be designs at one time. What was going through the team's mind that they felt like they had to design Kitty? Like that's that's my question. Like how overpowering were some of these other summoners that Kitty had to come into the fray and just destroy stuff? But it's an exciting time. I'm glad we're getting an airdrop card. Hopefully that can kind of wet people's whistles for a little bit until I think it's safe to say that we'll get Seabrek pouring onto the shores of Praetoria before 1.5 arrives. Hopefully that keeps people somewhat satisfied, shakes things up a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah, the trouble is I have my DEC ready for land, but that DEC might be ready for more Riftwatcher packs now to try to get get an additional airdrop of C-Rex. So we'll see if my plans go to naught after, if I get FOMO'd into some more Riftwatcher packs here.
Yeah, we'll see next time we talk, Virus, what your land plot count is. What is it right now? 18?
It's 18, and I have one that's outside my region, so that one's up for sale. But yeah, so it's
does not having a nice round number bug you?
Not until just now.
Not enough to make me pay the Area 51 premium, I think, for some of these plots. So I'm getting them when someone puts them up for sale randomly, but man, some of those are expensive. We'll have to, if I could get the I don't know if that castle went up for sale in Area 51 though, I couldn't pay that much for a castle, but that would be hurting me if I saw that for sale.
And that's the thing. The castle came up in the castle or keep came up in our region very early on, Jangles. And we were like looking at it and thinking, it's like, if I sold like a bunch of my other crypto, I could do it. Is it worth the investment? But I was just worried that it sort of become this like white elephant, right? You have to, how much will you, to maximize it, you'd have to get, these cards that are really expensive, stake all the DEC. And then further down the line, you're going to have to build, buildings and stuff on it to kind of keep it up and make it as productive as possible. It just seemed like, the cost now is one thing, but what's the ROI going to be, and how much are you maybe going to have to spend in the future to kind of keep up with the Joneses of the other castle owners. So yeah, I kind of like what kind of scared me off it, but I thought about it for a minute. But I'm glad I talked myself out of
it. It's funny in the beginning though. Right now, the when it comes to the amount of cards you have to put on, castles do not require the most cards. So, which 50,000 is a lot of PP to put on a land. But when you have multipliers and things like that, you can kind of, if you have like the 10K base PP and then you're kind of multiplying it with a Rooney and a totem and whatever else might go on there, you can kind of get to that amount without too big of a cost. But it doesn't benefit you to put much more than 50,000 on a keep or a castle, because the diminishing returns on taxes make it so that you don't, for every additional 10,000 PP that you put on there, you get way lower benefits than just that first 50,000. So at least in the beginning, the castle and keeps don't have a big cost to them. But like you're saying, you never know what's going to come out later on when they say you got to build the west wing onto your castle, and it's going to cost an arm and a leg or something,
Virus, when are you going to be opening up Praetoria consulting shop on how best to manage my territory here?
It's funny because Tails is actually doing that right now. He's doing consulting and setting up spreadsheets for people, but with the amount of time that I spent on my own 18 plots, if someone came to me with a tract and said, hey, here's all my cards and here's my tract with my 100 plots, figure it out, I'd probably be given the same timeline as the team is for certain projects, saying, yeah, I'll have that
we'll
to
talk
you in a
next
month
year.
or two. Yeah.
Oh, shoot. A lot of fun, man. Well, let's start winding this baby down. Virus, is there any kind of last comments that you want to share, or last kind of questions that you want to pose, or preemptively answer?
I mean, I enjoy being part of the community and kind of being in there and talking with everyone. And there's different parts of the community. There's the Discord community, there's the Splinterlands TV community, and there's After Sounds community and Ganks community and things like that too. So it's fun to be in there kind of with everyone and talk to everyone. And your guys podcast has been a whole different thing, be able to hear the stories of some of the OGs and some people's backstories of people that I've talked to personally, hearing Demore's background story. And there's a guy that I talk to frequently, and when I was with him in the guild. So I appreciate you guys for doing these interviews and kind of giving the rest of us these insights into some of the people in the community. And I hope to continue being a part of it for a long time.
Awesome. Well, very well said. Definitely glad to have you. Definitely a great member of the community. So glad you're going to stick with us.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for the kind words, Virus. It's an absolute pleasure to host you, man. And, like I said, we've been bumping into each other for the better part of the last 18 months. So it's good to finally, have a proper sit down fireside chat, if you will. And, air some stuff out with you, man. I certainly appreciate and respect your opinion, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Anything else from you, Happy?
Nope. Good to go.
All right, guys. We'll appreciate you all tuning in, and we will be back with. We're going to try and make up for some lost time from the last couple of weeks, and we've got a couple cool guests teed up in the next 10 or so days. We're going to try and churn out a handful of episodes between now and 2 weeks from now to like I said, make up for some lost time. But as always, appreciate you guys tuning in and hope you enjoyed the show. You have been listening to
People's Guild.